Gay rights. Everyone's got an opinion, and we want to hear them. That's why tonight on Platforum, we'll be talking about the issue of gay rights, more specifically, the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. All that and more coming up on tonight's show of Platforum. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Platforum. I am your Friday night host, Shauna Rappaport. We have got a great show for you tonight. We're talking about the issue of gay rights, and we're going to start the discussion off by talking more specifically about the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. Now, this policy was first approved by President Bill Clinton in 1993, and the policy pretty much, what it essentially does is prohibits homosexuals in the military from disclosing their sexual orientation, and it also prevents commanders from investigating the matter, so it's kind of exactly what it sounds like, a don't ask, don't tell policy. Now, USC students have recently held a letter writing campaign actually pushing for the reversal of this policy. So to start off tonight's discussion, I want to make it real open and simply ask you, what's your reaction to the don't ask, don't tell policy?
Well, I mean, frankly, this one sounds really weird, but like when I was a junior in high school, I was at Santa Cruz and I saw these sailors, like, on a mural, I mean, and it said, like, don't ask, don't tell, and I was like, what? Like, what does that mean? And my friend was like, oh, it's like a thing in the military where, like, you can't tell your sexuality and, like, they can't ask. And I was like, I thought he was joking. So for, like, the next 2 years, I just thought, like, our country wouldn't be, like, stupid enough or, like, intolerant enough to have something like that. So, I mean, me personally, I'm just like, that is, like, that's so ridiculous that, like, you can't disclose something that's natural to, you know, like, if you can disclose that you're, like, a heterosexual in the Army, why can't you easily just say, oh, yeah, that's my boyfriend over there?
In defense of a conservative approach, I mean, a lot of people don't believe that it's something that's natural. So,
but that's their own problem. They don't have to do it then.
The problem with something like that is this policy has to be defined based in large part on public opinion. So
why?
Because
I mean, that's how, like, things like the Holocaust happen. It's like public opinion. Let's just, like, kill all the Jews. Like, I'm just saying, like, public opinion. Let's make all the gays, like, into a category.
But taking
no, it's not. That's how things start.
The morality of homosexuality, I don't think, is the question here. I think we need to look at a question from a military standpoint. Are gays fit to serve in the military? Is there any reason to allow them not to? And the question to that, obviously, yes, there's nothing inherently about being homosexual that should prevent someone from being able to fulfill their duties. And
there's no question that somebody who's gay and in the military obviously causes some sort of disturbance, but I don't think it's the person who's gay or lesbian's fault. I believe that it has to do with intolerance.
It's our country.
Well, before you even look at that, you need to examine one of the fundamental paradoxes behind the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, and that's that the policy itself acknowledges that there are already homosexuals serving in the military actively that we may not be aware of, but they're already there, and our military is obviously not collapsed on itself. But at the same time now, we have this policy that has cost us 10,000 soldiers that have been dishonorably discharged over the past 13 years since it's been in place. And we're in a war. Whenever this policy was implemented, we had just gotten out of the Gulf conflict. Right now, we're in a wartime situation where we're in need of those troops, and we've cut those sources off to us.
But that's because we're, like you said, you said that we need to, like, ask it, like, are gays fit to serve in the military? It's just like, how can you even ask a thing like that? Like, I'm sure some gays aren't. I mean, I'm sure some heterosexuals aren't. I'm sure some people aren't. Like, when you say, like, when you enforce this policy, you're grouping together and looking at someone, you're saying because someone likes the same sex, they're all of a sudden less of a human being and more of a category.
I want to address a question.
I just wanted to interject. I'm so sorry. And I think it's because maybe I'm in the know, but I am not in the know. The intentions of the don't ask, don't tell. Is it more so to protect homosexuals who want to serve in the military and who want to serve this country, to protect them, or is it to protect the military who are intolerant and don't understand that it should be mixed and people should be open? I want to know
What do you guys
that.
think?
One of the original intentions of this was on both sides of that. One of the stated intentions was to protect soldiers. You have your infamous blanket parties wherein soldiers would break into suspected or known homosexual officers or military members' rooms in the middle of the night, put a blanket over their heads so they couldn't see them, and then beat them nearly to death. And that was the basis of the movie A Few Good Men. So you had incidents like that really raised Aaron Sorkin's movie really raised public opinion of that. And then at the same time, the policy was there to prevent the McCarthy witch hunts that were going on in the military. If you're a suspected homosexual, commanders were wasting tremendous amounts of time and resources trying to weed out these homosexuals. And at the time, it was a very progressive compromise, partially led in large part by Colin Powell. It was a very progressive compromise. It's been in place too long, and we need to move past that. But it was a big step forward when it was implemented.
Were you going to add another comment before that tangent, or should we
I
move
wanted to
on?
address the same question Sarah did, so.
Good, good.
And
Go ahead if you have something on the same topic.
we were talking about the definition fit to serve, and I think that it's important to look at that. I don't think that anyone's going to argue that inherently based on the fact that somebody's homosexual that they're not fit to serve in the sense that they can't perform their duty, but you also have to analyze that from the effect of what effect is that person's known sexual orientation going to have on the rest of the team. And I think the two biggest concerns...
I definitely believe that somebody who's gay might cause some sort of disturbance. I don't think that makes them necessarily not.
But we don't
fit
deserve to be a
serve.
country if we can't have like a gay person in the military.
But that's,
So
I mean,
there you go.
there are people in this country that are intolerant, and it's not just with homosexuals, it's with other minorities. And I'm sure 50 years ago, 50, 70 years ago, it was blacks serving in the military.
And then it was women. I mean, you had the same issue with women, that women would destroy unit cohesiveness because it would be a sexual distraction, which is, I think the issue of women is actually, and that's the point that, no, I think the issue with women is that it's a very close parallel in terms of the sexual issues.
Right.
But the two biggest concerns with integrating homosexuals into the military are, one, the question of unit cohesiveness and communication and trust, and two, the question of modesty rights. Now, yes.
Go ahead, finish the thought.
In terms of unit cohesiveness, the underlying thought there is that if people are worried that they have homosexuals in their group, that they're not going to be able to communicate and trust each other on the battlefield. But in reality, if people are being more open, then one would think that would encourage trust and communication between officers. And you look at what happened with Great Britain's military. They integrated homosexuals into the armed forces in 2000, and the biggest news was that there was no news. It was such an anticlimax, it didn't seem to be an issue.
So then let me ask you guys to shift the conversation a little bit into the bigger picture and maybe bring in some other types of opinions here. What can be done? You make this great statement that we don't deserve to be a country, and I think that the foundation of the issue of gay rights is based on this very problem, which is that what can we do to bring people together? So as college students, people of the young generation, I'm curious as to what are your opinions? What can be done as far as, you know, people in our generation, as well as the government, the military, what can be done to help foster the type of environment in which such a policy will not be necessary?
Okay, to me it's simple. Like, you have all these people in power. I mean, you even have Senator Craig, who was like caught like trying to like get his wiener caressed or whatever. And then you like to me it's like so simple. You just like recognize, well, these people in power need to recognize that they are in power, and that simply them saying like, you know, being gay, like, it shouldn't even be an issue. It's not about tolerating. Like, no, you shouldn't have to tolerate it.
Let me interject.
Well, it's very easy for somebody in your or my position to say that.
Right.
But the problem is that we have possibly a majority in this country of people that have a different opinion.
No,
you actually
but
don't.
you
It's
have-
between 60 and 71% of Americans that no longer find the idea of gay marriage or homosexuality to be an issue, but the problem is the politicians in place. The other rest, 30% of the country, 30 to 45% of the country, is very much anti-homosexual rights, and group that is in favor of it is in favor of them, but not to the extent that they won't vote for somebody if they're against gay rights. So it becomes more valuable then to politicians to appease the constituency that is against gay rights than those that are for
what,
it.
though? For re-election? I'm just saying.
Right,
I feel
but
like
that's how
all
our
these
political
people
system
have
works.
selfish motives. Like, they're really not thinking of a country, of a cohesive country on the whole. They're thinking of, how can I win with, like, you know, it's like all a competition now. Like,